Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. I welcome you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Our Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we're going to be led by Police Captain John Slaughter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches from Pleasant Grove Baptist Church, we're going to hear from Pastor Asa Bell. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Madam Mayor, members of the Board of Commissioners, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here and to do this. I do want to share some things with you before we pray.
Absolutely.
Want to invite each of you to Pleasant Grove Baptist Church. We're at less than, 3/4 of a mile from here. Our services are every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. They are not long services, and so to the extent that you have an hour and a half that you can spare, please come out and meet our congregation and share and worship with us. The other things that are going on, though, we're in the middle of our summer camp, the East Wake Leadership Academy summer camp. We have 50 students with us for 6 weeks, all day at no charge to them or their families. Many of those students are a part of our East Wake Leadership Academy after school program, which is a program Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, a couple of hours after school, where we are instilling leadership and academic skills in them. So again, to the extent that you can, please come, drop by. We welcome you at any time to come and be a part of what we're doing. If you would bow your heads with me. God our Father, we bow in humble submission to you on this day, for indeed this is the day that you made, and we're rejoicing and we're glad in it. God, we understand that you're the sovereign God, that you're the God who is in control of all things, that you are the ruler, that you are the creator and the maker, and God, that you entrust certain things unto us. Help us now and help this Board of Commissioners to be good stewards over all that you have given unto them. God, I pray that you would give them knowledge, that you would give them wisdom, God, that you would give them godly direction in every decision that they would make, that even as you pour wisdom into them, God, that they would use that wisdom for the benefit of all of their constituents. I thank you for each of them, and I pray a special blessing upon them now. I pray a blessing upon their families, God, that you would continue to keep them and protect them. And when all is said and done, it is our desire, God, that you be glorified in our actions and our words. We invite you into this place on this night to lead, to guide, and to direct. We thank you, and we pray it in your Son's name. Amen.
Is there any adjustment to the agenda?
Motion to approve.
The motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
There is no one signed up tonight for public comment. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
We do not have any recognitions, reports, or presentations tonight, so we'll move right on into our public hearings. Item 5A is a zoning map amendment request to rezone 2 parcels totaling 2.73 acres located at 1027 and 1011 Marshburn Road from rural agriculture to highway commercial.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to be presenting this item to you regarding the zoning map amendment request to rezone the 2 parcels located at 1027 and 1011 Marshburn Road from rural agricultural RA to highway commercial CH. The applicant is Thomas Mack, and the petition is that he has requested to change the zoning classification for the 2 properties located at 1027 and 1011 Marshburn Road from rural agricultural to highway commercial. The properties are currently located within the extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ, of the town of Wendell and are zoned RA. These parcels are the location of an existing landscape supply business known as Wendell Landscape Supply. The owner wishes to add the sales of vehicular trailers to his business. And the RA district allows outdoor storage as a primary use, which is what he's generally doing now with his landscape supply business. But the sale of merchandise, which is stored outside, is more retail in nature than storage. The town has an existing use category for heavy equipment, RV sales, farm equipment sales, mobile home sales, that would allow for the owner's desire for vehicular trailer sales. This use is permitted in the highway commercial zoning district, but not in the residential agricultural district. Thus, the requested rezoning from RA to CH better reflects the existing use of the site as a landscape supply business, as well as supports the owner's desire to sell vehicular trailers on the site. The properties are currently located in the ETJ, zoned RA. While the surrounding properties are currently zoned RA, it is anticipated that the properties to the west and the south of the site will eventually obtain a more commercial zoning designation as the Food Line Shopping Center develops over time. This is a zoning map that shows the, if you look to the west, is it? Yeah, the west, you see the CMX, and a little to the south is neighborhood center. As far as the comprehensive plan, the Wendell Comprehensive Plan defines this section as S4 controlled growth sector. And the S4 sector typically consists of lands that are typically close to thoroughfares and at key crossroads locations. This sector is where moderate intensity new development is appropriate and where the majority of the community's new growth should occur. These are a list of the community types and uses that are appropriate for the S4 sector: traditional neighborhood developments, neighborhood centers, single-family and multifamily residential, neighborhoods serving commercial uses, retail and office, civic uses, and industrial uses. The statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. At the June 17th meeting, the Planning Board found that the requested zoning map amendment to be consistent with the recommendation of the Wendell Comprehensive Land Use Plan and is reasonable given the expected future land use of the surrounding area and the existing use of the site. So there was, this is the Planning Board recommendation, voting in favor. Victoria Curtis, Joe DeLoach, Ryan Zacany, Lloyd Lancaster, and Alan Swain. Voting against, none. Absent was Jonathan Olson. And the final vote was 5-0. Staff recommends approval of this rezoning request since its purpose is to support the existing use at this site, and the requested zoning category is in line with future growth expectations. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, let's open, does anyone have any questions for Janine from the board? I will open the public hearing and hear from the applicant, if the applicant's here.
Madam Mayor, Board. Currently, like she said, it's being used as Wendell Landscape Supply, where they sell mulch, topsoil, fertilizers, sheds. It is my desire to be able to put some small trailers there, landscape dump trailers, landscape utility trailers, things that kind of go along with the business, just to try to promote growth.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here tonight that wishes to speak for or against the zoning change? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay.
I, for several years, have bought mulch and a little bit of topsoil from Wendell Landscape Supply, and I've been to a number of places like this, and it's honestly, it's one of the cleanest, most well-maintained places. Absolutely, I mean, beautiful looking from the road, and extremely convenient for the people of Wendell. Honestly, the reason I started going there is because I was worried that my trailer wouldn't be able to haul a load of mulch from Raleigh all the way back to Wendell, so it was convenient, but now he's gonna fix that problem for me, he's gonna sell me a new trailer, so, wish you the best of luck. I think it's absolutely great. I'm glad to see you expanding, and best of luck to you.
Okay, what's y'all's pleasure?
I agree. I think it's a great business for the town. I think I agree with Commissioner Ware that it's one of the nicest looking buildings we've had in town as far as construction wise. It looks fantastic. So I'd make a motion to approve the request to rezone both parcels to highway commercial.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the rezoning request. Do we need to say in the motion that we're adopting the ordinance? Is that necessary, Jim? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the rezoning. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Move to item 5B, is a discussion and action on a zoning text amendment to chapters 2, 3, and 19 of the UDO as it relates to short-term rentals, specifically bed and breakfast inns, homestays, and whole house lodging.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. This is a carryover from our June 10th public hearing that we held on this proposed text amendment affecting 3 chapters of the UDO related to short-term rentals. The town's initiating this change as a result of some of the citizen requests and inquiries that we've received. As an update to what you received last time, due to some of the comments we received at this hearing, as well as staff met with Jonathan Olson, who was a planning board member who came and spoke at the hearing, as well as an additional member. We couldn't get the chairman, he was not available. But we met with some representatives of the planning board to discuss this, to try to see if we could find some kind of middle ground between the planning board's recommended position, which was to essentially just allow it by right everywhere, versus the staff's position, which had some regulations still in place, kind of controlling some of the locations and other factors. So what we brought back before you is an alternative language that is more permissive in nature, allowing them in a lot of more locations with fewer regulations than what we originally proposed. We still have that original proposal included as an attachment for your reference, or if there was a desire by the board to carry forward with that. But the new proposal is reflected in attachment A of your report. Also, as just an update, there was a question at the hearing about whether or not there were any jurisdictions of our size that had regulations covering short-term rentals. I kind of put Janine to that task of looking, and it took her 27 attempts to find one. So it was kind of what I figured is that most jurisdictions our size don't have regulations directly addressing this. There was one just outside of Asheville that did. I won't go back through all the item summary unless the board wishes me to, but to get to what the proposed changes are in relation to what you originally saw, we still have definitions for homestays and whole house lodging. Those definitions haven't changed, but we would still be adding 2 uses to our code. As a reminder, the homestay means they're renting out space within their home, but they still live there, they're still there during the stay. Whole house lodging means they don't live there, they're not there during the stay, or they could live there part-time, but during the stay at least, they're not present. Someone's renting the whole house without any other present, without the owner present. And the short-term rentals, again, is 30 days or less. In general, the changes we are looking at doing is to have whole house lodging being limited to the residential agricultural district, or RA, as well as primarily commercial zoning districts, or that if they're in one of their more residential districts, that they're within 200 feet of a commercial district. So before, the whole house was really just within the commercial areas in the RA, and there wasn't really an allowance for them within the primarily residential districts. So we're trying to create an allowance for that, that if they're close to those commercial corridors or commercial zones, that they'd still be allowed. The bed and breakfast inns and the homestays would be permitted virtually in all districts. They're not allowed within the manufacturing industrial, and we don't actually have a mobile home district, but if you look at the tables, those are really the only districts that are not listed as allowed. So they're essentially allowed everywhere under this new language. And the separation requirements that had been present in the prior language that talked about being 400 feet away from each other, that's no longer present as well. So that's been removed from the proposal. So the table has changed to essentially list these three, and I've had them highlighted kind of in an orangish color as permitted with standards in virtually all the districts present except MI and MH. In terms of any regulations associated with these, that list got dramatically reduced in this new proposal as well. So for the bed and breakfast inn, there would be, in order to kind of treat them in a similar nature to the homestays and the whole house, there would be a regulation that said that any bed and breakfast inn without on-site staff present during the overnight stay should only be permitted in the RA district or within 200 feet of one of the commercial districts. And that's to make it kind of fit in be treated the same way as what we're proposing for the whole house. So if it's in a primarily residential district, then they're fine, but if they're, it just depends on whether or not there's staff or not. If there's staff present, then they can be in those residential districts. If there's no staff present, then they're regulated according to that standard of being within the RA or in a commercial district or close to one. For the homestay, the only regulations that are left are essentially just saying some language to ensure that someone actually does live there. There's a full-time resident present, and the language says, how do you demonstrate that there's a full-time resident present? This is how you demonstrate that. So those are the only regulations that would apply, is to say that, yes, somebody does have to live there and stay there during the stay. For the whole house lodging, again, it would be that if it's now allowed in more districts than before, but it has a standard that says if it is located in one of those residential districts, it has to be within 200 feet of your commercial districts. And we're kind of just clarify that it would be measured from the property line of the property. And the only other standard is that whole house lodging uses will be prohibited on the ground floor of any street-facing multi-tenant structure established for a non-residential use. That language is just there to stop somebody from potentially taking an empty storefront on Main Street or in Knott Square, Food Line Shopping Center, and establishing a whole house rental within it because it's listed as permitted. So that's the only reason that's really there. I don't think that's likely to happen, but just in case. The planning board, just as a reminder, they did vote at their May meeting to just permit them by right. So we're closer to that direction, although we do still have a few standards, but much less than before. And that was a unanimous vote, excuse me, at their May meeting. There is included a statement of plan consistency within your draft ordinance that references principle number 1 of the comprehensive plan, preserving our small town feel. Staff is recommending approval of this. So again, just what this does essentially was restrict that whole house rental units to areas close to commercial or within commercial. Homestays pretty much anywhere are allowed as long as someone actually stays there. And the bed and breakfast inn, where they're allowed, will again just depend on whether or not someone is there on site versus not. And it would be treated kind of the same way as the other short-term rentals. That's all I have for you. The manager has something to add.
Just one quick statement.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the board for giving staff the time to work with the planning board on the revised language. I'd also like to thank planning board members Olson and Deloach for taking their time to come down and meet with David and I and work through to find something that works with both of us. And I know Joe's here, if not Mr. Olson. I believe I saw Joe earlier, but if you have any questions of him in that meeting. But we do appreciate the time to go back and find some alternative language that addresses both issues that were raised.
And this would be a lot easier to enforce, certainly.
All right. Does anyone have any questions? Mark?
David, has either of the planning board members seen the new, the new ordinance, the attachment A here?
So I don't remember if I emailed it to him afterwards. I probably should have. But this is essentially exactly what we described to them. And we sat down and went through what we want to accomplish and
Okay.
wrote out, wrote out what we were going to eliminate versus what we were going to maintain. So we
So-
kind of went through the whole thing during our meeting.
The attachment's a reflection of what y'all discussed that
Exact-
meeting?
mhm.
Okay.
And they, at that time, when you guys were finished with your discussion, they felt
Yeah, I think they were.
satisfied with this and?
I think they're very much satisfied with what we came down to. You know, we tried to explain where we were coming from, but I think that where we ended up, they had no qualms with that. They were happy with that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
David, currently under the, I guess it would be the UDO, if I have a bed and breakfast, do I have to serve the meal? On-site staff present during stay shall serve breakfast meal to overnight guests. Is that an existing regulation, or is that?
So, right now, there's no standards attached to it, although there is a definition. Which section are you reading that from, just so I can make?
Definition of
Bed and breakfast.
requires the meal in the morning, correct?
Right, I don't know if it specifically says it'll be served, but there has to, I mean,
Oh,
part
it
of the
does.
definition of it is that there's a meal served at an in-room rate, is part of the definition for bed and breakfast.
Existing definition.
And we're not-
I was just trying to see if we had an old definition, or that was new.
No, so yeah, this proposal would no longer be modifying, so the definition that is currently there for bed and breakfast would still be there, there wouldn't be any changes to it.
I'm gonna guess that also requires a bed then. Okay,
Sir,
make sure. It's not just a breakfast.
minimum of one.
I'm gonna, now that we have other questions, I'm gonna make a comment.
Go ahead.
I have, even since the last meeting, I went and sat through a presentation on Airbnb policy and what you should do for municipal governments. I think defining this as a solution in search of a problem. Look, I'd love for downtown Wendell to be so booming and so popular that we had Airbnbs crawling out of the upper ceilings of downtown. It's not. It's not a thing that exists right now. It's not a problem that we have right now. And we limit ourselves, and we find ourselves the benefactors of unintended consequences when we arbitrarily limit ourselves, specifically in policies relating to technology. I completely understand the logic of someone buying the house next door to me and putting it on their Airbnb tomorrow night, and I may have a problem with it on night after tomorrow. I haven't heard that concern from anybody else yet. I haven't heard a concern from anybody in town that has that wants anything but the ability to use this, rather than to be told when they can't use it. I'm generally where I am the last time, and it's no secret to David or the manager. I told him in a meeting, you're probably not going to get me on this vote regardless of how you write this. I'm all for enforcing all of those problems, because I could just get a neighbor that moves in that I don't like. And I want those same protections that are going to protect me if it's an Airbnb to protect me if it's just a neighbor I don't like. I can assure you, if you were to look at the mayor's Facebook inbox or any of our email inboxes, there's plenty of folks that have concerns with their neighbors that would like those enforced. I say we focus on that side and we let this Airbnb thing grow and develop into something that can later be regulated, but right now we're regulating nothing, and we're going to regulate it into absolutely nothing.
I could come from a different end of the spectrum as Commissioner Joyner, than that, you know, I feel like a little bit of regulation is safer going into something that's new to the town. Last time as a board, there was a lot of concern from planning boards and from board members regarding the level of restrictions, and we kind of sent it back to town staff, and I think they did the right thing by meeting with one of the most outspoken people against this, and they came to a point where they felt like they were in a good compromise.
And so I like what's come out of this. I think it's a compromise. I think it's a good solution for, I don't want to say problem, but I think it's a good solution for an issue that's brought to our attention. I think it allows our town staff to have something in place that they feel comfortable with, while also still allowing something to develop. I'm in favor of the first ordinance, or the new revised ordinance, and that would be my recommendation of going forward. But that's just me.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Okay. I'll go ahead and put it for a motion, or for a motion, make a motion that we approve the new revised attachment A is the new ordinance. That's clear enough.
So we have a motion to adopt attachment A, the new ordinance, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? Let's see our hands on this one. I think we might not. All opposed? Okay, so. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Let's move into our administrative items. Item 6A is a presentation of Citizen Advisory Board Appearance Commission applicant. We're going to hear from Megan, our town.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. One of our applicants from the last meeting on June 10th, her name is Melissa K. Brand. She wanted to submit her previous application as consideration for the Appearance Commission. So I've printed out a copy of that application for your review, and I'm going to pass out the ballots and request that you vote for or against Melissa K. Brand as the member for the Appearance Commission.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it has been approved that Melissa Brand will be the member of the Appearance Commission. I also wanted to update the board. I've reached out to the principal at East Wake High School and also the leader of 4-H, and they're going to send me applicants once the school year kicks in for the tree board.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 6B is a request for a waiver of community center rental fee by East Wake Alumni Association. I'm going to hear from Mr. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. On behalf of the East Wake Alumni Association, Greg Dragos is asking for the community center rental fees to be waived for the East Wake High School Alumni Scholarship Fundraiser event on Saturday, September 28th. The event would be from 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. This event, all funds will be going towards scholarships for children that are actually in need, who are planning to go to North Carolina universities or junior colleges. So 100% of that money will be used for needy students that actually need the money to go to college. The request fee asking to be waived is $2,500. That is the entire facility rental fee with an alcohol event. The East Wake Alumni Association would be responsible for the cleanup fee of $250 and the staffing fee / a police fee. Since they have alcohol at that event, they would be required for an officer of $647.50 for a total of $897.50. This went to the rec board on the June 3rd meeting and was reviewed and voted in favor of this waiver. They plan on having an event where they're selling $50 tickets for 200 people to attend the event that evening. And Mr. Drago is out of state today, so he could not be here to answer any questions you guys may have had for him, but I have his write-up if you have any questions. I hope I can answer them.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Pulaski?
This is a scholarship fundraiser.
Scholarship. 100% of the money goes to children that are in need of help. It's not going to the ones that have already gotten scholarships and are off, going to other schools. This is for children that have been accepted to college but maybe not able to afford to go.
From East Wake High School?
Yeah, East Wake High School only.
East Wake High School only.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the request for waiver of the community center rental fee.
All right, we have a motion to approve the request for the fee waiver for the community center. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All right. Let's move into our other business. 7A is our snapshot.
Just a reminder that the finance department will be presenting at your next meeting the new look performance management report. And departments are collecting data starting with the new fiscal year. So in August, you'll start seeing July's numbers from the metrics in your budget.
Our snapshot's going to become even more informative.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, let's move on to item 7B, update by board committees, by town board members. We'll start with Commissioner Joyner, the Wendell Fire Board.
The Fire Department Board of Directors will meet later this week as a result of the holiday earlier.
Okay. And the Technical Review Committee, Commissioner Carroll.
I failed to do that. To give
Okay.
an update.
Okay. Commissioners' reports, item 8, start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just thank you to staff and Wendell Historic Society for the parade that was put on in Wendell on the 4th. It was quite the event. I know we say this after every event, but it continues to grow, and that one in particular has grown substantially. Appreciate all the planning. Obviously, I'll remind everyone playing from home that when we have these events on these big holiday weekends, that means town staff is here, town staff is working. I literally saw half of this building and the other half from the police department just riding down Main Street on the sides, working all day. So just thankful to staff and thankful to everybody that came out and contributed to bring such a cool event to town that day.
Commissioner Boyette.
Congratulations to the women's soccer team. My 3-year-old daughter thoroughly enjoyed watching the games. I thought it was very exciting. I just want to say congratulations to them. That's all I got.
Commissioner Myrick.
Yeah, just one thing, it won't come as a shock to a lot of people, but I wanted to do it before tonight. The last 2 meetings have ran somewhat long, but I will not be seeking re-election this fall. Since I ran 3.5 years ago or 4 years ago, my family has grown, my business has grown, and Lord willing, they both keep growing. But the only thing that hasn't increased is the amount of time I have to manage everything. So I guess it was August, I received a call from a gentleman, and he was interested in running, and he wanted to know what I was going to do. And I told him then, and Ever since that conversation, when people ask, I told them what I'm telling you guys now, but I did want to make it official. I'm very thankful to the town for the opportunity that I've been given to serve on this board. Thankful to the mayor for her support, which she's probably questioned from time to time, but I am thankful for it. So, thank you, guys.
Commissioner Lutz?
I just want to echo the comments for the Historical Society and for the town staff. The hard work was put in on the 4th. I know it was really a hot day that day, but the parade was just fantastic, and the ceremony and presentation downtown, the square, was awesome. So it's kind of like some of the events that my kids look forward to every year. So well done.
Commissioner Carroll?
No comment.
I want to remind you all real quickly that the Wendell Farmers Market has opened. They've been open for 2 Saturdays now, downtown on Campbell Street from 9 to 1. I hope it's grown every, 2 in a row, it's grown every time. So we're off to a really good start. It's exciting, and I hope that you'll go down there and shop with them and buy some produce from them. I also wanted to mention the 4th of July celebration. The Wendell Historical Society works very hard on that. They plan almost year-round for it, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate those people who gave their time to make it a success. There were civic groups there, churches, and it just isn't going to happen. It's one of those things where our town really, we really circle and everybody works and everybody has a task, and I appreciate their efforts. I also wanted to thank the town of Wendell employees. It was a holiday. I know they all would, I'm not going to say rather, but they would enjoy spending those days with their families, and I appreciate them being there. Everyone I saw had a smile on their face, and I want to thank them for being there and for their efforts on a holiday. One last thing. Saturday, July 20th at 7, the Parks and Recreation Department and Wendell Falls are going to co-host their first summer outdoor movie series at the Lakeside Pavilion, and you're invited. It's a free community event, and the movie is going to be The Incredibles 2. So July 20th at 7. Mark your calendars and join them for that. And I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.